Hello, how's everyone doing? Um, Been a long time since I've done one of these, but uh, it's kind of pointless in some aspects because I'm blocked so badly. Uh, Even when I share a link to some of my videos to people, that YouTube won't allow them to access it or whatever. I gotta share the link to my page instead. But I reach a couple people, and I've always tried to keep in my heart that that's the only reason that I do this, is to reach one. If I can save one extra soul, then it's worth days of my life, years. It's fine. So I hope that I can reach somebody. Or I guess the way I think about it is to plant a seed for God to grow. Um, so it's hard to not scatter your seeds, or it's hard to not plant a bunch of seeds in one hole. But if you can plant one seed, just one little seed of thought in somebody's mind, it can stick with them so long. And a lot of times they'll come back for more. And that's the best part, I guess. That's when you're doing it. Um, anyway, I was just thinking about going to a Jehovah Witness church tomorrow. Though, yeah, it's tomorrow, Sunday. I think they don't do a Saturday thing. I'm sitting here at the end of the driveway, and they haven't. I'm pretty sure I seen them go by a couple Sundays ago. Um, Anyhow, something I've always liked to do. I studied just the Bible, the biblical books. Starting out, I guess I studied Dr. Kent Hovind, and he opened me up scientifically so that I could let the Bible come in. Um, I'm like Timothy, where he said, "I won't believe you until I put my finger through his hands and put my hand in his chest." And then Jesus said, "Blessed are those that uh, haven't seen and still believe, because you, Timothy, you've seen and believe." Um, so God bless to the ones who could just have faith without knowing the true science behind all of our false science, like going through elementary school and junior high and all that stuff, and then watching National Geographics and TV and The Simpsons. Lisa's the worst little brainwasher you'd ever see. You get these, cognitive dissonance that you're stuck on that, and you think that that's all real. You're told that that's all real. You've trained your brain to believe all that stuff, and the Bible contradicts it all, right? Now, God says, call every man a liar before God. The Bible says that. So, we're to call them all liars just if you have faith in God without seeing the evidence. So, anyway, he showed me the evidence. And then, so I went into the Bible from being raised atheist, really. Um, so I go into the biblical readings, and it was Old Testament. I started with the full Bible and started right at page 1 and read right through. And then I avoided the New Testament for quite a while. Um, because I think that, again, me being stuck on stupid, I needed science, right? Um, and Jesus is so faith. God bless. God, thank you. Sorry for blessing me to understand now. But at the time, I didn't. Um, but I read Old Testament again, and then started looking into all the Apocrypha books and all the different books, and really started to read the New Testament at that point too, um, because I was gaining faith. So as I gained faith in God, I told myself I need to look into Jesus because it is written. And so I read it over a few times and studied the books a little bit, and found a church that I could associate with. This was years later. And by that time, I was already a flat earther. Again, because of science, I set out to, I was with Ken Hovind, right? He stays in the heliocentric model and proves the young Earth. So I was a young Earther, and then I found the flat Earthers, and I was like, okay, well, maybe you guys are right, maybe you're wrong, I don't know, but I think you should be pushing the young Earth first because you gotta baby steps to people. Like you can't just flat Earth them all the time. Like that's crazy. You know, they're gonna their brains are just gonna be broke. And so why don't we take baby steps on this one? And then no one was really listening. So I said, okay, well, I'll just prove you guys wrong. Easy enough. And then you'll have to come to the younger thing. Like, and so I studied flat Earth, and that blew my mind. When I took years to reprogram my brain, I was so stuck on globe. Like it was a big thing to switch over. But I think I'm quite successful. Anyhow, so found a preacher who was a flat earth preacher. So I figured this is the best way for me to hear the New Testament from somebody who's preaching the truth, because he's preaching about the flat earth and the young earth, and he's got it all down pat. And turns out it was a little church in, or not little anymore, but it was a little church in Louisiana. And this was like probably 2015. And anyhow, man, it was probably later than that, 2016, maybe 2017, because I was a flat earther for a little while before I found him, and he was a little behind me. But anyhow, found pastor of it's called the Christian Church of the Hebrews, Philadelphia, and they're in Louisiana, Lafayette, but they're the Philadelphia is the biblical, so that's one of the tribes of Israel, and he opened my eyes again to see who the real Jews are, and used Old Testament and all the books. So he was right in my alley. Plus, he was bringing me to Jesus at the same time, and opened my eyes to the truth of Christ. I could understand it better. And he had some seminary school stuff, but had pushed away from that because he had seen the flat earth and seen it all. He really blessed. Anyways, um, so I don't want to mispronounce his name. Omar I don't want to say his last name wrong. I can't remember. I want to say like Tribute or see. Forgive me, Pastor. I haven't watched him in years. He didn't push hard enough against COVID, and I kind of fell away. And every time I've tried to go back, it's more race stuff all the time. Um, and I understand that he's trying to wake up his people. He's being successful waking up his people, but the message doesn't connect to me because I'm not African American or whatever the hell. I'm not a Hebrew. I'm not one of their blood. The message connected to me then because it was a learning and stepping stone, and my step to Jesus and flat Earth. And he preached a lot of really good sermons before the COVID, and then since COVID, he's kind of been stuck on telling the Hebrews where they're messing up and kind of getting a little greasy with them and trying to get them out of the hood kind of thing, out of that mindset. And not greasy in a bad way, but greasy in like a pastor's way, you know? So like saying, come on guys, this is the truth. Here's what's wrong with us. Here's what's wrong with our society, all this. Anyway, so after that, I've just kind of went into my own study, and I read all the Apocrypha books that I could possibly find. And then I started looking into the other religions a bit, Buddha, stuff like that. I looked into Hinduism a little, not very much, just enough to see it. Muslims, I kind of know quite a bit. The Jews, but the Synagogue of Satan Jews, I know a lot. And so, I got to get to my point here. And I just had it again and lost it. Anyway, so then I like to look into everything. That's the point. And you have to. And I'm going to that Jehovah's Witness church because I want to see the different ways that people love God. I don't know which way is right or wrong or whatever, but I love him, and so I want to express that love, and it'd be nice to share it with a group. It's hard for a flat earther guy like, and all this knowledge about all these biblical things. It's really hard for me to find churches that I can connect with. So anyway, but I do enjoy going to different churches, listening to a service, and just having a better understanding of that religion, seeing if it's flawed or where it's flawed and whatnot. Obviously, 80-90% of, probably more than that, 99% of all forms of Christianity are wrong. See, God said he'll make a special place in hell for the people that screw with the book. Meaning, people will screw with the book. And they all think the book's protected by God. The literature's protected, but the book is not. So they all think the Bible is infallible and it's all you need to know, and you don't need to look at any of those other books. They were all taken out because they're not canon. The Apocrypha means hidden. And what God did promise the Christians is that we will suffer and die for a lack of knowledge. And a Christian dying means that you will not make it to heaven. God doesn't talk, everybody dies. We're all going to die. That's regardless. But is your soul going to die? Right? Are you atheist and you think that it's just over when it's over? Well, guess what? You're right for yourself, but you're wrong for a true Christian. Anyway, I hope you understand that I'm not saying there isn't heaven. I'm just saying that, and I don't think that there's hell. That's kind of what I'm getting at for people. Hell was created for the fallen angels and such, and some human souls, like the ones who tamper with the Bible, but not every atheist is going to go to hell. Their soul will be extinguished, is my thought on it. I don't know that for sure. I can't prove that one way or the other, but you can prove that there isn't hell for people. Um, there's Judgment Day, and on Judgment Day, God will make his decision on what's going to happen to your soul, and it could very well be that he'll just squeeze it, and then it'll disappear. It'll be gone out of creation. Um, that could be, depending on your life, if you were like tampering with the Bible improperly or something like that, that could be a very, very painful process. So in that sense, there's hell, but I don't think there's like hell, like we're all taught. So anyhow, well, I don't think, I know there's no hell like we're all taught. And whew. So anyway, then I started to I read the book of Demonology. That's where that path started. It is also King James, right? So I thought, I'm going to just read it. I know that it's pushed against, and then some people push for it. And anyway, I'm going to read the fucking book, and it's still of God in some sense, even if it's against him. It's going to bring me closer to him, because knowing the enemies of God, you can better understand what God is, because you know his opposite, right? So it's like when I studied math, if A equaled B plus C, I would make the equation equal, I would make B equal and C equal, and rearrange the equations so that I could understand it in every way better, see what was going on better, and then understood equations better because of that, just in general, because you understand how they work and why the letters are there and all that kind of stuff, and how that all works out. So I read the book of Demonology, and I recommend that everyone read the book of Demonology. It's an important book to read. It's just a conversation between two guys, and one guy's asking about demons, witchcraft, all that kind of stuff, and the other guy's very knowledgeable and answers all of his questions, and then some. So not only does it show you the opposite of God, but he really shows you how to protect yourself from any possession or anything like that. So in that knowledge, you know what to look for in the world, and what to avoid and all that kind of stuff. And one of the things that you learn is that Satan uses knowledge as a tool to take you off of your path. And so you can get stuck in some form of knowledge that is godly, but by itself, it's not. It's like witchcraft, right? Witchcraft is godly, power because there's only God's power. But if you get stuck in it and start doing evil, or just not worshiping God and not praising him with your ability, then you're just stuck out there and you're in a form of Satanism because you're passively rejecting God. You're forgetting about him. So anyways, he writes it better than I could explain it. I suggest you go read the book. But so then I looked into Satanists. Not very much, but I studied the guy who's most recently started it publicly, and his daughter, and they're both dead now. But you can still see his interviews and stuff. He was a guest on like the Late Show, way back with like Johnny Carson or something, and it was a ridiculing interview, but at the same time, it was promoting him. It was promoting Satanism and letting people know that he existed at all, and was TV was evil back then, I guess is what I'm trying to get at then. It hasn't just become evil. You guys are just noticing the evil more. It's more prevalent, and we have more access to other information, so therefore you can research it easier. But before the internet, it was magazines and television, novels and such. So the same people that own the television own the magazines and funded the geologists, so they had them under contract, so they could just control all the information, and there was nothing anybody could do about it. And it was very hard to discover because they owned it all, right? And they'd disgrace anybody that stood up against them, and it would look really presentable. Like Scientific America was a Satanist organization. Anyhow, and it's been lying to you since its creation, not just recently. When you look into Satanism was thriving, huge, way back in the early 70s. It was huge in the States. Everywhere. Huge churches doing fucking crazy shit. I can't imagine what the size of them is now. And Satanism wants power and manipulates their way into God's power in order to, like I said, doing something like witchcraft. And they'll focus on that one form of knowledge and get lost and stuck in it and not do it in a godly manner anymore. They'll start doing it for selfish reasons, but they have to tell you the truth because it's a godly power, and in order to gain access to it, you have to live like godly. You have to be of a pure spirit. So then they changed that to be in karma. You have to have clear karma, and so that's why the Buddhist is satanic. And anybody that's thinking that, just the way I live is going to get me into, I'm a good person and blah, 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 all that stuff. You got to have it all. You got to encompass all of it. Read all the books. If you don't read it all, then you don't understand it all, and you're not going to make it. The elect is very few. Most Christians are going to go to Jesus and say, oh, look at this, and I worshiped you. And he's going to say, I didn't know you. Because you didn't know him. Anyway. So you got to look into everything. So me going to a different church like the Jehovah's Witness church is like I said, just another way for me to see how different people love God and how far off they are. I don't know. I know I have looked into Jehovah's, but, and I know that they're off, but it's a lot of places that are off are very loving environments too. Uh, I was with that cult, the 12 Tribes, for a while. I wasn't with them. I hung out with them and thought about joining, and they wanted me to join quite badly. And but um, their theology, though very similar to mine, wasn't it. They were stuck on one verse and kind of exploited that verse to their own gain, in order to have slaves. And the rules were just far too much, like not being able to visit your own family unless the tribes see that it's good for you or whatever, good for the tribe and good timing. Like you don't own any of your time. But the way they live, it's very intriguing, and it is a lot of what I want for Linger Longer. But again, they're too cult-like, I guess. I don't know how else to explain it, um, but it was a learning experience, and a good learning experience, because I learned a lot for Linger Longer, and seen what's broken in off-grid living communities and things of this nature, and what works and what doesn't. Um, I lived on another one in Hawaii, and then I was visiting other one in Hawaii, and I got to talk to a bunch of the 12 Tribe guys, and especially one who was new, and he had actually moved around and done a bunch of different community living um, over the years. Yeah. So, anyways, it's very good to see what's out there and look, but again, you don't want to put too much of your study into anything that's going to lead you wrong. Like, again, if you focus just on the witchcraft, or they focus on just one verse of the Bible, where John says you have to give up everything and live for your brother, right? And so they say you got to give up everything and live just for your brother. And so, but they give up their free will, right? And they give away their IDs, destroy their ID, like they become non-citizens to the world, because like they're not IDs that they destroy. It's their any credit cards, any bank accounts, any bills in your name are paid off, and you're taken out of the system. Your social insurance number is no longer used because you work for free. It's all barter. So, um, and if you have things like whatever, any possessions you have, go to the tribe. They become part of. So, just a little bit much. Where Linger Longer would be all that biblical, all that giving up on the social and all that stuff, if that's what you desire, so that if, like, say you loved your career and you wanted to continue it and you needed to have credit, of course, you could go and do that and still live in the community. Just when you came home or when you get paid, you'd give the community a percentage of your pay, just like you would for rent and board and having, food and all that stuff, right? So, and the bonuses would be things like you'd have all that fresh, real food that's being grown on the farm, and somebody would make your lunch for you in the mornings and ship you off to work all happy and content, and you'd get to come home to something beautiful every day and not have to contribute to the farm physically so much, unless you were absolutely needed for something big like lifting a wall or whatever, or if you were felt like it. If you wanted to go and do something after work for a couple hours somewhere, whatever, of course. And again, you would keep some of your, what we would call rent that month or whatever, your living expense, because you were putting in extra on the farm. It would be fair to everybody, is the thing. But at the same time, its goal would be to be fully self-sufficient and have a front business that runs, that people work at, volunteer, that is profitable, obviously, but you wouldn't have to do all the tax stuff because everything is going. The employees are all just working for barter. They work because they get fed, because they have a place to live, because they are free. So Linger Longer would have a herbal pharmacy somewhere in town, and every day a couple people would have to go there and run it, make sure that there's inventory and everything stocked. The property would have flowers and things growing on it that would all have to be tended to, and probably make an alchemy room in the back that you could do any breakdowns that we had to do. Though the main part would all be done on the farm, and you just take stock with you, whoever went that week or that day or whatever. And anybody else would be doing farm work. And and then obviously if somebody would, and then working with the public, because that's the other thing that Linger Longer is going